My grandfather was born in Berlin in 1910. From all the pictures I have, he seemed to have a very nice, happy life. I have a picture of him. He's on the beach. I think it's family. He's on the beach. He's in a suit with a big smile on his face. Getting back to the formal German, and I have to say, I have to mention, because going back to the being on time, my wife knows this story. My cousin came to a family event late, and he said to my grandmother, "Oh, I'm sorry, there was traffic." And she said in her thick German accent, "Oh, you should plan for traffic." And so, yes, I know what it's like to be on time. But getting back to my grandfather, I'm fortunate enough to have his doctoral thesis here. You know, it's amazing. Back in that time, now we have computers, we can do legal research, we can format things. Here's a 60-page, 72-page, heavily footnoted document citing case law from 1890s through 1930s. And I think that's what he really wanted to do. Going back to your comment, he never really talked about it. He never complained. He never looked back and said, was bitter. But in 1932, as I think it was required, after graduating from Freiburg University, he accepted a position with a judge in Berlin and started working for the judge. Since he graduated in 32, it wasn't very long before Hitler came into power, and I was just speaking to my aunt actually last night, telling me that he was fortunate that the judge was telling him very soon, within a few months, because he only worked there for 6 months, you don't have a future here. You don't have a future with me. You don't have a future with in a federal position. Basically, get out of Germany. And so, in spite of all the tragedy and the Holocaust, I feel blessed in that both my grandparents, my grandmother was from Grebenau, both of them realized very quickly, and fortunate that they were in Germany and not in Austria, where they wouldn't find out until later when the Germans took over, or some other European country. So my grandfather came over in 34, pretty early in 34. Fortunately for them, as you mentioned, the U.S. was not so welcoming of Jews, but he had a sponsor that could get him over here. Being that he didn't speak English very well, and being that he did not have a lot of money and couldn't take anything with him, he was forced to work in a zipper factory. And then pretty soon after that, his brother and my great-grandfather came over, and a little bit after that in the Bronx, my grandfather's brother and my great-grandfather started a furniture store. My grandfather didn't want to work in a zipper factory. He didn't want to work in the furniture store, but that was pretty much the only option that he saw. He met my grandmother at some German-American event in, I think, about 36. They got married in 38. My father was born in 1939. They lived in a very small apartment in the Inwood section of New York, of Manhattan. Very small apartment. My aunt slept on the couch. My father had his own room, I think. It was basically a 2-bedroom, but very small 2-bedroom. Was not very wealthy, had a comfortable lifestyle. The things that strike me was, at the furniture store, he had a lot of dead time, downtime. He, which maybe not be typical, I know my father wasn't doing this, but my grandfather would be working on the New York Times crossword puzzle. And if any of you have tried to work on that, it's not an easy puzzle. And my grandfather knew the Latin terms, and he knew the combination terms, and he finished the puzzles. And I was like, wow. Because I looked, I couldn't even do more than 5, and they were usually sports related. And as I mentioned, my grandfather was never bitter. He never complained to us. I never heard stories. I regret not asking him more about this time in his life, and does he have resentment and the like. He seemed to have a happy life with my grandmother. He lived into his upper 70s. And a couple other things is when the rest of the family was speaking German and English, from my memories, my grandfather pretty much never spoke German. He would revert back to English. He had to go to school at night. I heard my grandmother say after her children and getting married, becoming a U.S. citizen was her proudest moment. My grandfather apparently told my grandmother, well, one value of his education was that he got a little bit more money for reparations from the German government, but it was I guess a small return on his investment. I'm struck. I see German American heritage on the sign. I mean, I'm half German. My grandmother and grandfather from Germany. I wish I could be more proud of that background, but having events like this and having Germany making strong strides to never forget, it means a lot. Thank you. Because, you know, as Israel says, never forget. And my kids will know this and never forget. And I truly believe Germany is a better place, a much, much, much better place. And over time, hopefully, I can be more proud of my German American heritage. Thank you.